6 o'clock.
Don't forget your microphones. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the City Council for February 24, 2025. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Council members Hughes.
Here.
Newport.
Here.
Wilms.
Here.
Isbell.
Here.
Conchal.
Here.
And Hart.
Here.
Mayor Flynn.
Here. The first item is citizen input. Per the rules, is a 3-minute per person time limit to address the council on any topic of that person's choosing. Total time for all citizens is 30 minutes. Any time extension would be at the discretion of City Council. I don't think we'll need that. The first person is Matt Sanders of 7 Nantwich Circle.
Good evening, Councilwomen, gentlemen, and Mr. Mayor.
Shout out to Richard Greer and Chief Sims. They heard my cries for help last month and immediately came out to inspect our 3-story deck. They did confirm what was already discovered by Bobby, which is it was built well below the minimum standards, and gave us some new information on like the erosion causing our AC unit to go below grade. So we found some new stuff. So, but just wanted to say thank you to them. But what I'm really here for is to now change gears and talk about the Oz Bike Park. I filled in a lot of questions the last few weeks since it's become public, and I want to address some of those questions, comments, and concerns with y'all. One is short elevation bike parks are quickly becoming a thing in the United States. As someone who just drove 14 hours to get to one a few weeks ago, I can say that they provide a really awesome ride that we do not have anywhere in Northwest Arkansas. Using Hilltop, which is back in Anchorage, Alaska, they are a short elevation bike park as well at only 294 feet, so very similar to what's being offered here. They've sustained year-over-year growth for the last 3 years, and we're going into our 4th season, and they immediately won over our residents. Because with the lift assist, it decongested the city streets, and so all of the bike riders who were shuttling up the mountain to get to the top of it were pulled off, and they were using the lift. So it was a great thing. For us here specifically, it'll be the decongestion on Oldham, and then the trailhead that's at the top of that where Cunningham and Oldham meet. It just can't hold very many people anyway, so now you'll have a risk of all those riders trying to get across the street and creating a dangerous situation. So a lift assist is crucial. 2 is the economic growth. Once I told my friends about it, they've all said the same thing, can't wait to come. And so being in the mountain bike capital of the world, we now have an opportunity to have an economic impact for Bella Vista. People are going to come here, spend their money to ride the trails and get food, get beverages, all that good stuff. So economic growth. 3, the learning capabilities with this type of riding we cannot get through our normal 105 miles at Bella Vista. And so quantifiably speaking, 1 day on this mountain bike park is equivalent to riding 10 days of our regular trail. So we're going to be able to increase our learning and capabilities for all of our riders. And then finally, I want to leave you with, we have city ordinances. And so any project that goes through, we would like you to follow those city ordinances. Specifically, with this project, we would like paved parking lot and sidewalks. When we get done riding our bikes for the day, we want to be able to ride our bikes safely across the street to Las Fajitas, grab some margaritas and California burritos, and not have to die. So, thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sarah Costa of 6 Kirkcudbright Drive.
You'll have to tell me when we start. I did not
Get
speak
started.
well. Oh, excuse me. Good evening, Councilman, Councilwoman, Mayor, Sir, and Attorney Kelly and staff. Everyone, you may recognize me from my involvement with the Bella Vista BZA and PC meetings. However, I'm here as citizen Sarah Jane Costa today. I was initially inspired by Maddie's January address to you as a Bella Vista citizen, and then Mr. Mayor John Flynn, your citizen input about the recent Landon Drive fiasco was very inspiring. But then on Valentine's Day, Friday night, I responded to a public input survey from Bella Vista's newly elected Travis Hart. And it was a fascinating exchange. I wanted to call out once more to Travis, your vote always matters. It always does. It always has. I feel very strongly about this. You'll have to excuse me if I get emotional. Mr. Hart, sir, why don't you focus more on your heroic efforts for the Rabbit Fire Department? It is your background, after all. What are you stirring in Bella Vista? So far, in my opinion, your leadership is a skunk. It stinks. We all see you in the negative effort you are bringing to the table. Please relax and think before you speak. My citizen opinion only. I'd like to thank you all personally for your great dedication to our city. You are here all for a reason. It's God's plan. Thank you for our brave public agents, firefighters, police, street planning, building, trails, admin, library departments, commissioners, and Mayor Mr. John Flynn. We're very blessed to have such a strong and dedicated team in our city. I share your vision to keep Bella Vista beautiful, natural, and progressive. I'm an Arkansas native, and I've lived in Bella Vista since 2015. About short-term rentals, STRs, there is and always has been a cap of 600 permits. We are actively approaching 150 permits left. Our city's growth is big, exciting, and noteworthy, but we all agree and love our 600 permit cap. I propose 700, not 800 as initially thought, to consider our housing crisis of today, but we need to also consider our lack of lodging. Professionally rated establishments are lacking in Bella Vista, and you know what, that's okay. 700 represents an enthusiastic vision for our short-term rental community. If you would like to keep and enforce our current 600 cap, I know staff will be hard on applicants after that cap is reached. It'll be a situation that will be difficult, I can hardly imagine it. A wait list that will be a nightmare, but it's manageable. I'm optimistic for that. If you're on board, I am too. Thanks for your consideration to raise the Bella Vista short-term rental cap to a strict 700. About the Oz Bike Trail, I'm very concerned about safety. Ride at your own risk. There will be more bike-related injuries. If Bella Vista could stamp efforts with the Oz trails, y'all and we could be leaders in safety and rider awareness together. These are just my 2 cents as a Bella Vista citizen. Thank you humbly and respectfully for all your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. The next speaker is Lori Trotwine of 7 Knox Lane.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about the library. On December 23rd, there was a Facebook post regarding the garden and a picture posted where it had been completely mowed down. And this is Facebook, so I called the library to find out what was going on. I spoke to Suzanne Adams, I believe she's the library manager. She said that they had cut down 2 burning bushes because of scale, which is a disease that is treatable. And that was all that was being done. There was going to be a little bit more maintenance in that front bed, but nothing was going to be done on the side bed. I get over there a week later, everything had been decimated in the front bed, and the side bed had also been cut back to within an inch of its life. You don't do that in December. You're going to kill the plants. They're just not going to survive the winter. After a little bit of research, we found out that the volunteers had decided to no longer maintain the gardens. I've heard different versions of why, but that they offered to continue to maintain until another source of maintenance was provided. And they were told, no, you're out of here. 1 week, you're gone. All right, well, that's the gardens. And then on January 28th, Encore Bookstore is given notice to vacate. Apparently there had been some sort of negotiations versus a lease versus a MOU. I don't, again, know the background of all of this because I'm reading about it on Facebook. I'm not hearing about it from the city council. I'm not seeing articles in the newspaper. I'm reading about this on Facebook. You can't take half of what you see on Facebook for truth. So I don't know what's going on. I do know that they donated something like $1,200 a week. They provided the bulk of the money for the addition, and now all of that money is gone. And then I read in the newspaper finally on the 20th that Mary Ann Farner is resigning from the board, the library board, which she'd been part of since 2014. There were also a number of other members that were resigning that had been involved in the board. All of this is going on behind closed doors. I don't think city council knows half of what's happened. I know the public doesn't know. I don't know how much of this has to do with the hybrid ownership, management of who owns the library, who owns the grounds, who pays the salaries. But this is crazy. Who is going to make up the difference of what Encore have been providing? is that now gonna come out of taxes, or are we gonna have to come up with a different volunteer? And who would wanna volunteer if everything is up in the air all the time? I don't know whether it's management or leadership or what is happening, but this needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Linda Lloyd of 102 Fairway Drive.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here because the mayor has proposed reappointing me to the Planning Commission, and I do know most of you, but I just wanted to point out a couple of things. My master's degree is in regional planning. I've been a realtor since 1973, also a real estate appraiser for 20 years. I've done extensive development work in 3 different states. And over the last year, I've taken some courses and am now, as of last week, a certified Arkansas planning official. I take my position on the Planning Commission very seriously, and I think it's a really important position to help guide the city and applicants that come before us. There have been some suggestions that people get special consideration, and that is absolutely not true. It's extremely important for all Planning Commission people to take into account not who the applicant is, but what the application is and how does it comply with our rules and regulations. It's extremely important to me that we follow our rules and regulations and uphold them for the benefit of the city. And so thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. We now have a time for council response. Before people get responding, I'd like to address the library issue. I'd like to read the official announcement from Bella Vista, which I don't think a lot of people have seen. Some people have, some haven't. The City of Bella Vista greatly appreciates the support and funding provided to our public library by the Bella Vista Friends of the Library over the past years, and know the organization's bookstore inside the library will be missed among the community. The Friends Encore bookstore operated within the Bella Vista Public Library under a no-cost lease agreement instated January 2024. Though they had occupied that space for many years prior, the lease was put in place due to library-related laws that recently had been passed. The lease was set to renew automatically with no changes for 2025. Mayor John Flynn received an email on December 29, 2024 stating the Friends would be terminating their lease effective December 31, 2024. The Friends were interested in remaining in the space under a memorandum of understanding only, not a lease. Mayor Flynn met with the Friends in January 2025 to discuss their issues with the lease and agreed to make all the requested changes. The Friends Board rejected the amended lease and then presented the city with a draft MOU, which included demands that the city was unable to accommodate, including a larger space for the bookstore operation and dedicated office space. Therefore, the city accepted the termination of the lease as the Friends requested and followed the legal process to notify the Friends they would need to vacate the space by the close of business Thursday, February 6th, as the lease expired December 31, 2024. The library will use the space to expand patron services, shelving, and collections to accommodate our growing number of patrons and programs. So that's the official statement. I was going to say a lot more, but I think I'll refrain from doing that. It's been very frustrating for me. It was a very frustrating relationship with the Friends, particularly recently. And there's a lot of things that were not going as it should, so I'll leave it at that. Council reply on any of these topics? Wendy?
Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Sanders, I'm so glad first Mr. Greer and Chief Sims were able to come and help give you some quick help. They're fantastic. I'm so glad that they're part of our team. Also, what you said with the Oz Bike Park sounds great. I love economic growth and impact for our city. Our community needs more tax base than it's commercial. Love that. And I think that you're right. Like, we have rules in place about sidewalks and paved parking lots. And so I'm very excited about this possibility. You know, I'm not a biker myself. I'm very clumsy. That's okay. Maybe I'll learn. Maybe I'll pick it up and figure something out. Ms. Costa, thank you for coming as a citizen here. And I will touch on the cap suggestion. I think it's a great idea. I think we definitely could discuss as a council about raising that cap, especially when originally, I was on council at the time, it was originally proposed to keep it about 4% of the homes, and because we are having exponential growth in homes, readdressing the cap might be something we need to consider to make sure that we do have lodging, well, especially the growth we have, the Oz Pack, or the Oz Bike Park, and that sort of thing. So I'm willing to have those conversations in the future. Lori, you're right, the council, we didn't know what was happening with the library situation, and part of that is because we're legislative, not executive, so it's out of our purview. Personally, would have loved a heads up. Would have been great, just because being able to field calls with as much information as possible is very beneficial. But I understand again that's not, it's out of our wheelhouse on that, and sometimes I wish it wasn't, but that's just kind of the reality of the situation. And then Linda, there you are. Thank you for speaking tonight. Yeah, your CV is unmatched. You've been very good to the community, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
Mr. Mayor.
Craig?
If I may, I'm going to get kind of off in the weeds a little bit. I don't know if anybody watched the work session. I was not in the best mood. And I really feel like I called any applicant that applied for planning, the transportation thing. I think I accidentally, unwittingly, basically called everybody out. And I don't know if anybody took it that way. I took it that way. I had a lot of time with myself to think about how I delivered my thoughts. And I'm a real process guy, so I do trust the planning department. I do trust everybody that's, you know, professionally employed. I can't do their job. So when they make a recommendation, you know, that is our job to get into it and really read and research and all those things. So if anybody was offended by anything I said, any of the applicants, I'm really sorry. That was not my intention. That is never my intention. And I've got some more things to say. I'll save it for later. But I do want to ask or say, you know, the Oz Trail, the information that I have on that so far, you know, everything that I've done, basically from when I was a planner in Fayetteville and planner here, you know, everything is safety. And that's the biggest concern I have. I'm not anti-bike. You know, I think the trails are going to do great things, but I'm very concerned about the safety aspect of this whole thing. You know, we have an obligation to do this correctly, and not just 5 years from now correctly, 30 years from now correctly. I mean, it is a big, big endeavor. I'm super excited to get into it. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting, to say the least. But with that, I will concede. Thank you.
Travis?
Yeah. Hey, Matt, thanks for your unique perspective on the bike park. I hadn't heard that yet, so it's good to have some, you know, ammunition to speak positively about that when constituents come to me and complain about it. Also, I think it's worth mentioning that I did a little bit of research into your house situation, and it's just, to me, it's noteworthy to say on record that that happened prior to the fire department taking over inspection. So hopefully that will be a positive impact for situations like you to not happen again. And then Sarah, thanks for coming tonight and speaking. I really enjoyed your perspective on increasing the cap for short-term rentals. I like that idea. I know a lot of people are not going to like that idea. It's kind of split half and half. And sorry for offending you with my survey. I was just doing my best to reach as many constituents as possible. So I didn't really mean to offend you, and I'm sorry that you took it in a negative manner. So, and then Lori, I'll piggyback off of what Wendy said. City council, it's out of our, we don't. So what I learned about the bookstore thing, the city council, we do approve leases, but we don't have anything to do with the termination of leases. So I learned that as a newly elected city council member. I thought we should have been told and made aware of that and weren't. And then Linda, thanks for your involvement and your hard work and everything you do for those.
Anybody else? Larry?
Yes, just a couple of comments. The paving of the parking lots and driveways for the bike trail thing that Mr. Sanders brought up, that's an expense item, and right now we're not flush on cash for capital projects. In fact, if you look at the next 5 years, we will have a challenge in funding those, so just as a reference. I understand what you're saying, it's nice to have them paid.
It's a private park, sir.
What's that?
It's private, it's not a public park.
Oh, the parking lots?
The whole thing, sir.
So, okay, so you're aware of that? Okay. The issue about the library, I guess one observation that I've made in all the articles that I've read is that in any contract relationship, there's a grantor and a grantee. The grantor has some priority choices in terms of how they deal with a given situation. In other words, the form of the contract, perhaps some key language in the contract, and other provisions like that. So the grantor, which would be the city in this case, does have some prerogatives in terms of how they might want to deal with a relationship of a subordinate issue, such as a rental. So I know there was a lot to do about whether the tenant wanted a memo of understanding, and the city prevailed with a lease agreement, and so relative to that, the city is the grantor. The city does have some prerogatives in that area, and really the bottom line probably is, in a court of law, provisions are the same or similar, but the city's choice was a lease agreement. So I'd like to say that if our library has been decimated with the shrubs, we should probably cancel that contract of whoever did that, because they obviously are not knowledgeable about taking care of foliage of any kind, whether it's plants, shrubs, or trees. So that's a suggestion. For Linda Lloyd, I appreciate her service and recognize her skills and abilities and contributions to the Planning Commission. I want to thank her for that.
Wendy?
So just for, I think, clarification on Larry's comments about the parking lots and the sidewalks, and Taylor might help me if I'm wrong, the entity would have to, the Walton or Blue Crane would have to be responsible for paying for those, correct? It's not a city expense.
That's correct. It's a private developer, they would be required in your code.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay. We all set? The next item is action on the minutes, approval of the minutes of the January 27, 2025 regular council meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
That's Craig and Larry Wilms. Craig Honchall and Larry Wilms. Roll call vote.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
and Hart.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Thank you for that. Next one is the monthly financial report. And I just wanted you know, in the prior meeting, we went over November 30 financials. And December 31 are not ready yet. They're never ready this fast because it's year end and there's a lot of special things you need to do at year end. So I want to take the time from the financial report to talk about the credit rating of the city of Bella Vista. When we did our bonds in 2020, our 1% bond, was the first time the city had done a bond. And so we got our first credit rating, which was AA minus. This was from S&P Global Ratings, which is Standard & Poor's. And we were pretty happy with that because that's the same as Rogers and Bentonville and some of the big cities around here. And recently, Standard & Poor's did a review with us. Granted, they reviewed to make sure things are still going okay. And they contacted us and got a lot of financial information ahead of time, then had a conference phone call with Kim Hall, our Director of Finance, and myself. And we had our financial advisor was from Stevens Inc. It was Kevin Fott of Fayetteville, because they were, Stevens was one of the firms that supplied the funds for our bond. So we were advised that there's no way your credit rating would get better. It'd probably stay the same, AA minus. So we had this conference call, made some arguments about why our credit should be better. And to our surprise, pleasant surprise, when we got our rating, it was AA instead of AA minus. So our credit rating had improved. And the reason was the original bond was from 2045, and the financial experts estimated it would pay off in 2031 based on our flow of our city taxes, city sales tax. And now they're saying it will pay off in October 2027. So our city sales tax has been better than people would have expected. And the second reason is because of our, the health of Northwest Arkansas in general, but in particular the fact that we're adding 5 or 6 homes a year. It looks pretty certain that our sales tax will continue to increase. In fact, in 2019, right before we took out the bond, our sales tax was $1.9 million, our city sales tax. And in the latest year, 2024, it's over $4 million. So it's more than doubled and it's increased much more than people expected. So that's been very encouraging for us, and I just wanted to relay that good news about the credit rating for our financial report. Okay, the next item is I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules of order and procedure to allow all ordinances on the agenda to be read by title only.
Motion to approve.
Second.
That's Larry Wilms and Craig Honchel. Roll call vote.
Councilmembers Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Fowler. Oh, whoops, that was a big mistake. Hanschel
Yes.
and Harp.
Yes.
It's a new year.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is unfinished business. An ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Bella Vista to increase procurement authority without soliciting competitive bids from $35,000 to $42,921 to conform with state law changes providing for indexing set amounts to inflation, amending sections for purposes of conformity therewith, and for other purposes. And this is, of course, the state law because of the amount of inflation. I think it was 5 years. Don't they go every 5 years, Jason?
Now they do. So
Yeah.
the state law changed a couple of years ago, and that came into effect January 1 of this year, where the normal, what was previously a $35,000 cap on what we can buy before we have to either get a competitive bidding or have some reason to waive competitive bidding, it was then indexed to inflation. And they're going to review that every 5 years. The first indexing to inflation resulted in an amount of $42,921. So that's why you have that odd number here, that we expect that to be the number for the next 5 years. And that's what it is.
Yeah, so this is on second reading. Larry?
I'd like to make a motion to waive the rules and move to the third reading of this ordinance.
Second.
That was Larry Wilms and Wendy Hughes. Motion to move the third and final. Roll call vote.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Harp.
Yes. Motion carried 6-0. So I'll read it for a third and final time. Amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to increase procurement authority without soliciting competitive bids from $35,000 to $42,921 to conform with state law changes providing for indexing said amounts to inflation, amending sections for purposes of conformity therewith, and for other purposes. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Larry Wilms and Anna Isbell. Roll call vote.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
and Harp.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Thank you for that. The next one is an ordinance amending section 2-140 Code Enforcement Officers of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to provide for development compliance officers, defining their authority, and for other purposes. And this is on second reading. Did you want to hear, or Larry?
A motion to waive the rules and proceed with the third reading of this ordinance.
Second.
That was Larry Wilms and
Sure.
Shay Newport.
Just call me Doug.
I wondered if anybody wanted to have any discussion. I don't want to rush ahead.
I do want to have discussion, so. But we can do it after we,
Yeah, at this point, Mayor, the debate would be whether to suspend the rules.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we should suspend the rules. I think we should probably do all three readings on this, personally.
I guess my thought would be is that I haven't heard any feedback from the residents about this ordinance, pro or con, and it's a matter of operation for us. It does streamline our operation a great deal and allows us to address aspects relative to planning and development codes that are not necessarily the chief focal point of the code enforcement under the police department. So what it does is it sets up a sharing on code enforcement between the police department and the planning and development departments based upon the alignment in that group. And I don't know that putting it off is going to create any difference in how we address this unless some of you have reservations about it at this point and are unwilling to commit to approval.
Craig?
Kind of to chime in, I mean, I can appreciate what Councilmember Hughes is saying. There wasn't any further discussion in the work session, and I have not received any emails or anything otherwise. The only question I would have, Taylor, does that put, or I guess, does that put anybody in limbo? Like, I mean, if this waits for the third reading, is that going to put a strain on anybody in any way?
Well, I can just tell you that, well,
Please.
well, I was just going to say that it's probably at most going to just put off for 30 days some actions that we're ready to take on some cases. But is that fair to say? I mean, it's not going to hurt anything if it waits.
That's all I'm getting at, is that if this is slowing down the process of something, I'd be fully supportive of going to the third and final. I mean, just for the sake of, not to get somebody, but, just to get this thing. But like I said, there's been no further discussion. I've not received any information from anybody via email, text, or anything else, so I really don't have a problem with it.
Man,
Travis?
yeah, I've received several emails and phone calls speaking out against this. And I've done a lot of research on this topic myself, and I feel like if this was best practice, at least one successful city from here to the River Valley would have adopted this. And I've talked to almost every city from here to there, and even some of the counties, and none of them do it this way. I did speak to Little Rock, and after Taylor told us that they were doing it this way, and they do it a lot different, actually, from my understanding. They actually have a code enforcement officer assigned to each division. So there's a landscape code enforcement, there's a driveway and a parking enforcement. So, and also I don't think that Little Rock is a good comparison to Bella Vista. So I personally don't support this still, and a lot of my constituents have reached out to me. I also don't support suspending the rules and moving to a third and final.
Okay, can I respond, Councilman?
Sure,
Please.
Chief.
It actually has slowed us down a little bit. I mean, on my end, because there's been,
Yeah, okay. It has slowed us down a little bit on my end. There was a situation a couple weeks back where we've had to respond to assist Taylor with issuing some citations because her folks don't have the enforcement capacity to do that yet. So, I mean, it's nothing that's earth shattering, but it is slowing things down. This ordinance or passing of this would smooth things out, like I think someone, Councilmember Wilms had mentioned. This will smooth things out between departments. This is operational. This has nothing to do with anything else. It's operational between departments, and this is going to help us in the department to enforce things where they belong and in whose wheelhouse they belong, where the professional purview is for each department as far as code enforcement. So I'm not sure what the big hang-up is. This does make things go smoother for us, and I would support it as chief of police.
Well, I guess that's the thing that I have, is that my frustration lies in why weren't we talking about this last work session? If there's a lot of problems with it, it should have been talked about. We shouldn't be here trying to.
Nobody's called me to ask me at all how this would impact.
That's kind of my point, is that that's what the work session, that's what we're supposed to talk about, and then we just kind of blazed right through it, and nothing was said. So I just came in thinking that everybody was pretty much on board, so, and I'm all about transparency. If you guys want to go third, I'm fine with that.
Are there any questions from me while I'm here?
Yeah, that's what I'd like to know, is that if you can explain.
I'm not sure what to explain.
I don't know.
What are the questions?
Point of order, should we finish up this motion first and then do the rest of the debate regarding the actual?
Yeah,
At
technically, I think we're
this
supposed
point,
to
the
be
debate is on the
third
question of
final.
whether to suspend the rules.
Yeah, okay, why don't we do the roll call vote on that? Hang on, Chief. Go ahead.
Council members Hughes,
No.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Isbell,
No.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Hart.
No.
Mayor, it's tied 3-3.
Yeah, I'm not gonna vote unless suspend the rules. I don't think we should be breaking ties.
So it remains on second reading and your debate continues on second reading.
Yeah, but why don't you go ahead with the question? I think they had a question for you, explaining how it works. Or why.
Go ahead.
Anna, go ahead.
My basic question is just around why not have the person just report to you, but specialize in the code enforcement piece of it? Does that make it more or less smooth? Because in my mind, it seems more smooth, but
Do you mean report to me, but then?
still
but then
only
operate under-
enforces the codes for building codes, STR codes?
Because that's what we've been,
Specialized.
that's what we've been doing, okay?
And that's not all what this person does. This person does my inspections for me. They do my final inspections for development. They do the follow-ups. They do the large-scale inspections. They do the landscape inspections. This person does everything encompassing development enforcement from administration to enforcement. It's not just code enforcement. That's why his name is different. He does everything encompassing development compliance from all ends, beginning to end.
Then for my department to supervise that person, my folks would have to learn everything she knows. Okay, so we can supervise them in their job and what they're doing. So again, we're duplicating efforts. That's where the expertise is, and so that's where the code enforcement should be. I'm not sure, what the big hangup is here. I'm just saying that's where the expertise is. And so to ask me to learn everything she knows, to supervise this person to then do the job she wants them to do, I would be calling her and asking, and you see what I'm saying? So, does that answer your question?
Any other questions? So we're going to be at third and final next month, then. So,
okay.
Thank you for your time. Okay, under new business, we have a resolution approving the mayor's appointment of Linda Lloyd to position 2 of the Bella Vista Planning Commission for a term expiring March 1, 2029.
Motion to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Mr. Hansel. A roll call vote.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
and Hart.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. And the next one is resolution approving the mayor's appointment of Jack Wagner to position 3 of the Bella Vista Planning Commission for a term expiring March 1, 2029. If he's here, which I think he is, Jack, would you like to stand up? I was going to introduce everybody, but you all already knew Linda Lloyd's, so you just breezed right by that. Anyway, I think most of you have spoken to Jack. I know I have, and Taylor has, and he told me he's spoken to most of the council folks. So anyway, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
That was Craig and Anna. Roll call vote.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms.
I'm voting no.
Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Hart, we're not in that.
oh Hart, I'm sorry, Hart, yes.
Yes.
So, motion carried 5-1. Did you want to say something?
I would, in deference to Mr. Wagner. We spoke on the phone for probably half an hour, maybe almost 45 minutes, and I was very impressed with his skills and his background, and I voted no, not because I don't believe he's capable of that position. I think he's overqualified for it, and we would be better served with him in another position that focuses more on the whole horizon of planning. So that's why I voted no. It's not that I don't support him, I voted no because I think he's overqualified and he's going to be disappointed over time with this position. So,
Okay, thank you for that.
just so you understand.
I was going to say, you should have talked 55 minutes instead of 45, but I guess not. That would have helped. Next one's a resolution approving the mayor's appointment of Jonathan Eli to the Active Transportation Advisory Board for a 3-year term beginning March 1, 2025. And Jonathan is a 1-year incumbent. You know, when we first started this group, you want to stagger the terms, so some people end up with really short terms. And I don't know if he's here tonight. I guess not. So anyway, they shorten the terms, to get the stagger going. So it's kind of, you're just getting warmed up. So they've been happy with his work on the board.
Mr. Mayor, I have an amendment for that resolution. And the amendment is to add the title of the position, number 6, as a part of the title. It's missing there, but it's shown in the 2 previous ones we've just adopted. And it makes it easier in the search to have that position number in the title. So I propose to amend the title by adding position 6.
Okay, in the handout, I guess it says he's position 6.
Yes. And it's only in the title, which is where the other ones are.
Well, if it's going to be in the title, it also needs to be in the body.
Okay.
But I would suggest that it really doesn't have to be in either, because we're filling 2 full terms with the 2 positions, and I don't know that we have ranked this board by position number, but it doesn't mean we can't, and it's certainly something you can do. So I would just say that it needs to be, anything that's in the title definitely needs to be in the body.
Okay. And I would amend my revision or amendment to include the body of the text to have that inserted as well. If I may.
I hate to bring up sore subjects, but don't amendments have to be in writing?
He's in writing, and
Oh, okay.
I wrote it down, what he just
Okay,
said.
yeah. Oh, okay, that's why.
I think that covers that part of the other one.
Very good. Okay, so that's a motion for an amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Larry Wilms and Craig Hansel. Roll call vote on the amendment.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
No.
Wilms,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
and Hart.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried 5-1.
When was the vote?
So that was to have the amendment in place. So now we vote again on whether to pass it, right, Jason?
Yes, sir. It would be in order for someone to move to adopt it unless there's further debate.
Okay,
I'll move to adopt the amended motion.
Travis?
Yeah, I just have some debate on this, or just,
Okay, you said you moved to adopt the amended motion.
Yeah,
Didn't we just amend it?
The amended, you're moving to adopt the resolution. as amended.
Resolution.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
yeah, I think we need a second, then we can talk about it. Somebody want to say?
Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Mr. Hansel. Travis?
yeah, I just wanted to say, I know that there was a lot of applications for all of these positions, and I would just encourage every staff member that's involved in this to try really hard to reach out to all the applicants, even if you don't want to, take them in for an interview, or even if you do interview them and you decide they're not a good fit, to at least send them an email and thank them for their time, because I had a couple of people reach out to me and say, I applied for this, I'm extremely qualified, I'm surprised that you found somebody more qualified than me, and I've never heard anything back from the city. So I would just encourage staff members, I know it's a lot more work for you, especially with this amount of applications, but they're willing to volunteer their time, and I just feel like we should take time to at least send them an email and thank them for that.
I think that's a good point. I had I don't know, he may have been contacted eventually, but I had someone call me and say, hey, I haven't heard anything yet, one way or the other. That was a week and a half or so ago, but I think it does happen. It's a legitimate point. It's, these things have gotten so popular, and we've gotten such good quality applications. A lot of them are volunteer positions, and it's really unbelievable. So you could be a really high quality person and not get it. That's what it amounts to.
I would also like to just say that I think I get more calls and emails than anyone, because I'm first on the list when you go to the website. So that could be why I hear all these things with the other counselors.
Okay.
Motion.
Oh yeah, we had a motion and a second to pass this, didn't we? So we need a roll call vote. One, on the motion to pass the amended resolution.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
and Hart.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. And next one's a resolution approving the mayor's appointment of Nathan Boone to the Active Transportation Advisory Board for a 3-year term beginning March 1, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Hansel and Mr. Wilms. I neglected to ask if Nathan Boone was here. Okay.
Is it too late to amend that?
Okay, we're ready for, thank you for coming, appreciate it. We're ready for a roll call vote.
Has there been a motion to approve?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was Mr. Hansel, Mr. Wilms, right?
Yes.
Second, yeah.
Council members Hughes.
Yes.
Newport.
Yes.
Wilms.
Yes.
Isbell.
Yes.
Hanschel.
Yes.
And Hart.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Thank you very much. Next one is approving the mayor's appointment of Isaac Merriman as an ex officio youth member of the Active Transportation Advisory Board. And I believe Isaac is here. You want to stand up? Met him a couple times. He's very active in the community. And some of you may perhaps look at his resume. So, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Hanschel and Wendy Hughes. Roll call vote.
Council members Hughes.
Yes.
Newport.
Yes.
Wilms.
Yes.
Isbell.
Yes.
Hanschel.
Yes.
And Hart.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 6-0. Next one is approving the mayor's appointment of Grace Dean as an ex officio youth member of the Active Transportation Advisory Board. Is Grace here? Thank you. I guess right. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Anna Isbell. A roll call vote.
Council members Hughes.
Yes.
Newport.
Yes.
Wilms.
Yes.
Isbell.
Yes.
Hanschel.
Yes.
And Hart.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one was a resolution approving the mayor's appointment of Laura Williams to the Bella Vista Arts Council to fill an unexpired term ending April 22, 2026, due to the resignation of Gina Porter.
Motion to approve.
Here's Laura Williams. Laura Williams, excuse me. Mr. Williams made a motion. Is there a second? Yes, Heidi over the second. Craig Hanschel, second. Roll call vote. Yes.
As a point of order, do we have discussion before motions to approve? That'd be great.
Or it can be after, either way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it can be after the motion is second, but it's not supposed to be in between the motions.
Before the vote, right?
Yeah. Wendy?
Like, your resume was so impressive. Laura, just incredible life, and I'm really excited to have you on our Arts Council.
I agree.
Are we ready? Okay, roll call vote.
Council members Hughes.
Yes.
Newport.
Yes.
Wilms.
Yes.
Isbell.
Yes.
Hanschel.
Yes.
And Hart.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one's a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Leo M. Elbach Company in the amount of $56,490.01 pursuant to a Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Agreement for the purchase of 15 sets of fire department bunker gear, and that's the protective firefighter clothing.
Move to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Shay Newport. Sorry. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Council members Hughes.
Yes.
Newport.
Yes.
Wilms.
Yes.
Isbell.
Yes.
Hanschel.
Yes.
And Hart.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Superior Automotive Group of Siloam Springs pursuant to a state procurement contract for the purchase of one Ram 1500 4x4 pickup truck, an amount not to exceed $40,500 for use by the Code Enforcement Division of the Police Department. Any discussion? Larry Williams?
Move to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Mr. Hanschel. Any more discussion? No. Okay, roll call vote.
Councilmembers Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
and Harp.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution amending the 2025 city budget in the amount of $11,831 to reallocate funding to complete the development code reform project. This was in Taylor's area, and it's a set contract for the whole code reform project, and they didn't spend quite as much as she thought last year at the end of the year, and she knows they're gonna get to that total number this year, I think, so you need to put that little bit of money back into this year. So technically, it's a budget amendment on 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And that was Mr. Hanschel and Mr. Wilms. A roll call vote.
Councilmembers Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
and Harp.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution amending the rules of order and procedure of the Bella Vista City Council to authorize virtual attendance by council members at regular meetings no more than 4 times per calendar year. Craig Hanschel.
Okay, I'm gonna muddy things up a little bit. This is still part of my contrition tour. I really got in the weeds. I don't know how I did this. And I called into question. I owe everybody an apology. I'm really sorry. I've been laid off for 6 months. First day back to work was today. So it's been a stressful time. And I think the way that I read this initially, I don't really even know how I digested the information, but I got it really wrong. Really, really wrong. And I would, I'll try to talk enough so you guys can consider what I'm going to say here. I would almost like to table this. I would almost just like to just make it to where there's not a limited number. Just make it unlimited. We're all adults. You can't make it if you're here virtually. You're here. Times have changed, and that's kind of the thing that I'm trying to settle into myself, is that I'm not used to really feeling like everybody's in the game together. And I'll leave it at that. And that's it. That's in a decade worth of public service. Not saying anything more about it. So coming from that angle, I would almost just like to table this, make it all virtual. If you need to be virtual, and then just have 2 allowed absences due to family illness or, some catastrophic something. I know, Jason, you're just about to lose your mind, and I'm not opposing.
Too late.
But no, I mean, it just, and I got my math wrong. I saw the grams down there. I am an engineer, and, I was gonna go out and get a Math for Dummies book. I felt really dumb. So, anyway, if you guys, I would like to hear some discussion about that, if we want to take it back to a work session and kind of just rehash it. I'm open to anything. So, and I certainly don't want to be the curmudgeonly old man that sits down here and is not part of the club, or not that way, but, you know, it takes teamwork. So I want to be part of that team. So anyway, I'd be interested in hearing others' thoughts.
Travis?
I'm glad to see that you kind of changed your mind on that. I thought it was a little ironic. We were on Zoom arguing about whether Zoom was okay or not.
Oh my gosh. I got off and wanted to call every single one of y'all. I felt bad. I mean, I carried Catholic guilt like a turtle carries a shell. So, I mean, that's me. So.
I'm personally still okay with 4 times being max allowed. In the event it had to happen 5, I'd be okay with that too. So I'm open to discussion on that too. I don't think anybody on this council wants to take advantage of that. I think it's just there in the, you know, like I said, in the work session, for those of you that didn't hear it, 3 retired folks got off the city council and 3 working professionals got on the city council. And there's things that came up in my professional life where it will prevent me from physically being here. However, I will be able to attend virtually, and that'll be later this summer. And that could come up from time to time. And I think my constituents, or our constituents, are probably okay with that.
Wendy?
So first, congratulations on the job. That's very exciting news. I'm so excited for you. And then to thank you for realizing maybe what headspace that you were in and being willing to think through and process things. I do agree. I like having some limits. I think that while I do trust our council members not to abuse this, if we're putting a rule into place, I want to make sure that we are thinking forward for future councils in the future. So I am happy with the number 4 personally. I'm having some limits. I like rules. But yeah, I think that talking about changing the number if we need to, absolutely. But yeah, I like the idea of keeping a nice solid number personally. But thank you, Greg.
Shay?
Yeah, Greg, I appreciate your candor tonight, and I just also want to voice support of thinking about this rule occurring in perpetuity. And during my time in Municipal League, there were city council members from other jurisdictions who lamented a bit about an unlimited rule, and they felt like some of their council persons maybe took advantage of that. So from that perspective, I'm also okay with a 4 limit. Thank you for asking.
Larry?
I guess I'm probably the senior on the council here in many different ways. I grew up with cell phones or bag phones, and you carry it with you. I've been to Alaska and back managing a utility with a cell phone in a bag, and it worked wonderfully. It was the not the digital variety, but the analog variety, and it would call just about anywhere, and they could get a hold of me. So my technology goes back to almost the paper version, and it does. But the cell phones were the start of the technology in a lot of areas that we are accustomed to today. I did submit an amendment wanting to change the 4 to a 2. I'd be receptive to tabling this for another meeting and let us think about it as to what type of language we'd like to put in here collectively, whether it's unlimited or whether we want to leave it at 4. So I would suggest that we table this for this meeting. It's not an urgent thing, I don't think. One of the things I do understand, however, is that we will have to implement some special considerations to make this happen. Whether it's equipment or personnel, I'm not sure, but it is something that's not going to happen at the drop of a hat. And this is a resolution, so we don't have a delay period like we do with an ordinance, which has, if you adopt it regularly, it has a 60-day adoption period after publishing. So this is something that becomes automatically applicable tomorrow morning. And I don't know that we're ready for that technologically at this point. And so if we give ourselves another month, I think it would allow the technical side of things to catch up with where we might be as a council. So I would recommend that we approve the tabling for the next meeting.
Is that a motion?
It's a motion.
Well,
I'd like to speak first.
well, we have a motion.
Yeah, I have to see if I get a second or not. Okay, it dies for lack of a second. Anna, now you can speak.
So when I was at Municipal League, I also spoke with, had some other conversations with a number of other cities, and so it was very similar, I think, to what you just said, Shay, about unlimited, either limiting it too much or making it too broad. And so I think the reason, I guess, I proposed 4 was I thought that was a good happy medium. I would like to move forward with this. If we pushed off another 30 days, I feel like we push off moving the technology forward. We do need to move with speed when we can, and I think that's important that we take action when it's appropriate as a city council.
Motion to approve?
Well,
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We'll have a little more discussion, I guess. Greg?
well, Whitney was before me.
Just, I do remember, I think John Local said on the virtual Zoom meeting that while the community might not like it, that we could do it, kind of put it ugly if we needed to, and make it work. And then later on, if we needed to do more advancements and talk about financials of like a dating software or technology, we could do that, but we could do it where it could be functional like today if we wanted to. If I hope I didn't speak on that.
Yeah, Sydney wanted to meet with me, and he actually sent me an email this morning that pretty much said that, or maybe it was early afternoon, but pretty much said we could do it. It might not be fabulous, but I'm meeting with him shortly and try and talk about it better. So, Travis?
Yeah, I feel like it's also important that we move with speed on this, just because the amount of times that we've been tied on votes already, having a quorum with an absent member, seems like on some issues it might be difficult.
The only question, and that's, thanks for reminding me, Larry, that's the only thing that I did omit. That's the only other concern that I have is that we don't know cost. I mean, I'm sure it's not going to cost tens of thousands of dollars, but you never know in this day and age of
What the impact is.
Yeah, and that's the only other reservation I have about it, was I hate to put something in place before we have the infrastructure to support it. So, you know, without knowing a dollar sign, I don't think that's really I don't want to say that's not appropriate, but I think we have to look at the fiscal side of things before getting into this. I don't know what it costs.
I think, and it might be wrong as to that, Mr. Local also mentioned that like if we did that kind of a quick and dirty, put it on the screen, it would maybe be simple as one having to have a split screen with the Zoom and it would be projected. And it might not cost anything for that because we already have the Zoom licensing. That could be correct information, but that's what I thought he had said during that meeting. And to make it nicer, where the BB Community TV have more control of the sound, that would be an added expense they weren't sure of yet, but for an immediate, that it should be hopefully low cost to nothing. I understood right.
Yeah, I don't know how comfortable I am with babies. And I'm not mocking it. And I understand, you know, that we need to get things going. I have no problem with that, but I do kind of have a little bit of trepidation with it might not cost anything or it might cost whatever. You know, I just don't know.
Okay, Larry?
There's been discussion about having an unlimited number versus 4. I had submitted an amendment for limiting it to 2, and I'm withdrawing that from consideration anyway. But the reality is that if we vote on it tonight, we vote on 4. With an unknown impact of cost to the city. If we delay the decision, and it isn't going to make any difference to any of us, if we're not here, we're not here. For the next meeting, but the reality is that it allows us to readjust the number of the frequency or the number of times per calendar year to either go unlimited, leaving it up to each of us as a responsible counselor, or to set it at 4. And so that's one reason for postponing. Another reason is the cost, and we need to find out if that, what it's going to require. Do we get a picture-in-picture, or do we get a whole screen that comes up with the individual when they speak? How is that going to be affected? So I think we need some feedback from our technical staff, our IT staff, in terms of how the impact is going to be and what the costs might be. So that's my reason for tabling it. And we can change the language if we want to when it comes around.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the floor to pass it for 4 times a year. So we'll have a roll call vote on that, see where we land.
Councilmembers Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms,
No.
Isbell,
Yes.
Hanchel,
No.
Hart.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-2. Thank you for that discussion. Last one is P, resolution amending the rules of order and procedure of the Bella Vista City Council to create a consent agenda procedure for approval of certain meetings to promote efficiency in the conduct of meetings. This was Shane Newport's suggestion. Wendy?
I think this is a great idea. There's a lot of things that are not contentious, that just are easy to say yes to, and so if it could streamline our meetings, I love it. I think it's great.
I think it's a great idea also. I mean, that's what I was getting at earlier, is that it's a different atmosphere when people are, when you actually have people that are looking for ways to improve. And I think that's great, so, good job.
Okay. Travis?
If one of the council members had an issue with an item that was in the consent packet, it's as easy as we could just bring that up here, and then it gets removed from that. It doesn't need a vote to remove that.
Any one of you can do that, so you just, as we get to the consent agenda, you can say, Mayor, I'd like to pull item 3 off, or item C, or whatever, and handle that independently, and it gets done. It doesn't require a vote, it's a one-person call to make, so that's it.
I like this idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good protection, because everybody might think, oh, this is just routine, and somebody says, hey, wait a minute, maybe it's not routine, then it's easy to get it off the list, so doesn't seem like there's a downside. Larry?
One thought would be is that I'm assuming priority-wise, the consent agenda becomes an initial item on our approving list, and then if an item is pulled by one or more council persons, then that would be the next item of consideration in the sequence that was on.
Right after the adoption. So if you look at the exhibit, which is the proposed rule, we're adding a subsection B2, and that just says any item of business requiring a vote of the city council that is not a proposed ordinance, including but not limited to action on the minutes or a proposed resolution, may be placed on a consent agenda for approval. Consent agenda items shall be voted upon as a group without discussion by the city council. If a council member wishes to comment upon or discuss a consent agenda item, that item shall be removed and considered immediately after the consent agenda has been voted upon. So you would have consent agenda if it's, what if you want to pull one of those off, then you'll vote on what's left in the consent agenda and immediately move into that item.
So for clarification, would resolutions be a candidate for that agenda or not?
Yes, yes.
They would be.
Yes.
Ordinances would not.
Ordinances do not, because they have a 3 reading requirement and require suspension of rules, and we could not do those through consent agenda items. There are certain items that you do hear that may require a special public hearing when it comes to, say, vacating right-of-way or those very specialized things. That could not be in a consent agenda because you've got to have a special public hearing for that. So that would be the example of an item that would not be eligible along with any proposed ordinance.
Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Second.
That's Shane Newport and Travis Harp.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Newport,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Fowler, oh, I'm so sorry. Hanschel,
Yes.
I won't do this again. I need to update. Harp,
Yes.
thank you.
Motion carries 6-0. Next item is announcements. Next city council work session is 5:30 PM on Monday, March 17 at Bella Vista Police Training Room. Next city council regular meeting 6 PM Monday, March 24 at Bella Vista District Court. Planning Commission work session 4:30 PM Thursday, February 27 at Bella Vista District Court. Planning Commission regular meeting 4:30 PM or immediately following BCA Monday, March 10 at Bella Vista District Court. Board of Construction Appeals 3 PM Tuesday, March 11 if necessary at Fire Station number 4 Conference Room 1639 Forest Hills Boulevard. Larry?
I have a procedural question. Did we appoint someone at the last meeting or at this meeting for the Board of Construction Appeals? Am I way off base or?
January. This is January.
It was in January.